Hello everyone, welcome to the Autoimmune Dietitian YouTube channel. My name is Annie. I'm a registered dietitian and I work with people struggling with autoimmune diseases. In my work with my clients, I help them use food and lifestyle as a way to improve their symptoms and hopefully get them back feeling like a normal human being again. So the specific carbohydrate diet, what we're talking about today. And it is a unique elimination diet that is effective for inflammatory digestive disorders like inflammatory bowel disease, which includes Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, and celiac disease. In my personal opinion, it's one of the hardest elimination diets to do, even harder than AIP. But the results can be pretty remarkable. So today I'm discussing this diet, who it would work for, and how to do it. Before I jump in, I just need to attach my usual disclaimer to this video that the information in today's talk is not the substitute for the diagnosis, treatment, or care of disease by a medical provider. This is for informational purposes only. Please consult your qualified health professional for any changes you make to your medical care, and that includes your diet and or supplements. So, the specific carbohydrate diet dates back to the 1920s. Dr. Sidney Haas developed the diet as a treatment for celiac disease. They actually didn't know at the time what celiac disease was and that gluten actually triggered, symptoms and a reaction. So this diet used to be called the banana diet because a lot of bananas were used in this diet to help children, and they ended up eating a lot of bananas and felt better because they weren't eating gluten. Then in the late 1980s, Elaine Gottschall published a book called Breaking the Vicious Cycle, which I actually have right here. And this is a specific carbohydrate diet guide for the general public. And she used this diet on her daughter who was suffering from inflammatory bowel disease, and her condition was not responding to medication. And so she tried this diet, and her daughter's condition improved so much that she decided to publish the diet in the book to help other families in her situation. So the specific carbohydrate diet is thought to improve digestion and the gut microbes in the intestinal lining. The theory behind this diet implies that people with inflammatory bowel issues lose the ability to digest certain carbohydrates. These undigested carbohydrates remain in the intestine and start to ferment, which we know is not a good thing because this triggers an overgrowth of harmful bacteria that leads to inflammation. So this diet works best for those with inflammatory digestive issues like Crohn's, colitis, and celiac disease. It may also work for those with juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Elaine Gottschall also claims that this diet can help people with diverticulitis, cystic fibrosis, and chronic diarrhea, although there are no studies backing these claims. So what does this diet entail? So the following foods are allowed on the specific carbohydrate diet. So all fresh meat, fresh poultry, fish, shellfish, all allowed. So basically any animal protein. All vegetables except potato, sweet potato, and turnips. All fruit, eggs, sharp cheddar, Colby, Swiss, and dry curd cottage cheese. Legumes except for soybean, chickpea, and bean sprouts. Honey, all natural peanut butter, all nuts, peanuts, and nut flours, additive-free oils, white vinegar, cider, and mustard. This diet cuts out everything else. So all processed foods, most powdered spices, there are some that are allowed and not allowed. Seaweed, most sugars, obviously except for honey is like the one sugar that is allowed. Candy, chocolate, all grains, and high lactose dairy. In her book, she provides extensive lists of what you can and cannot eat. There's also a website. If you Google Breaking the Vicious Cycle, there's a website that has a full list of what is legal and illegal in terms of this diet. So how does it work? Well, the first phase of this diet consists of only a few safe foods that are known to not trigger diarrhea. And they can vary based on the person, but are generally recommended to be the following: homemade broth, chicken or beef bone broth, homemade applesauce using peeled apples, diluted fruit juice, and you can drink that plain, or you can make it into like a homemade Jello or gelatin, mashed chicken or mashed other beef, or like fish that flakes very easily. Eggs, as long as no sensitivity to eggs exists, and then cooked mashed vegetables. So, very limited, obviously. And the first phase is followed for only about 2 to 3 days. If symptoms stabilize, then you can move on to phase 2, where more solid foods are gradually reintroduced. All vegetables and fruits should be peeled, seeded, and well cooked. So, no raw fruits or vegetables. The only thing that is allowed to be raw are overripe bananas, and they have to be overripe. They cannot be green or even fully yellow. They recommend having bananas with spots on them. The most common vegetables to start reintroducing are green beans, peppers, mushrooms, avocado, tomatoes, peaches, pineapples, and plums. I guess some of those are fruits. Specific carbohydrate diet yogurt can be added in after the first 2 days, and this is actually a very important part of the diet. So this yogurt helps repopulate the gut with good bacteria, which is obviously very important for digestion and balance. There's a very specific way that you make this yogurt. You can only make it, you cannot buy it in the store, and it is basically fermented. It's cooked at a low heat and fermented over 24 hours. And so many people invest in yogurt makers when they are doing this. You can also, if you have like an Instapot or something similar, you can make, a lot of times there's a yogurt setting where you can make that yogurt in that. But again, there's very specific instructions on how to do that. Nut flours, lentils, and specific beans can also be added in during this time, as well as more solid meats. And then as symptoms continue to improve, you can also start adding in, like raw vegetables, raw fruits, that type of thing. So the first and second phases usually take, potentially up to like 3 months before you add in anything raw. So it's really just a lot of cooked everything. The last phase is basically when you can start adding in the illegal foods, or the foods that are not, allowed on this diet. Some people recommend not adding these in at all. You can have a very well-balanced diet if just by following the specific carbohydrate diet. So it kind of depends on the person and their symptoms. Usually people feel so much better that they really don't want to add those foods in for like a pretty long time. And there's, again, 2 different camps. Some people believe you should avoid them forever. Others believe that it's good to add them in and add more variety into the diet. Most people do wait about a year to move on to phase 3. So it is a very kind of long, drawn out elimination diet. So that is an overview of the specific carbohydrate diet. Again, the first, phase and 2 phases can be extremely challenging, but it is doable. And I have seen people really bounce back and put their diseases into remission by following this diet. Research is definitely mixed. There's more conclusive research for pediatric inflammatory bowel disease and using this diet, which I think is super interesting. For the adult population, again, very few studies. Some of them are inconclusive. There's one study that compared the specific carbohydrate diet to the Mediterranean diet, and really there was no difference. They only did the diet for 12 weeks though, which may not have been enough time. So again, really mixed results, but I always think it's worth a try. If you've tried everything and nothing works, why not try this? So if you would like more help managing your autoimmune disease, maybe you want to try doing this elimination diet, I would love to help you do that. You definitely should enlist a qualified health professional to help you with this diet because it is so challenging and so limited. You want to make sure that you are getting all of your vitamins and minerals and nutrients that you need. So that is my advice. If you go to my YouTube profile, there is a link to book a free discovery call. If you can't find it, you can go to my website, annierubin.com, and you'll be able to do that there. While you're on my website, I've got lots of free downloadable guides all about other autoimmune, conditions and issues. So check those out. Check out my extensive blog. I put a lot of great information out there about, many different topics that people are interested in learning about. So, and lastly, if you do not subscribe to my YouTube channel, please hit the little subscribe button. I put these videos out about every week, just trying to give you lots of information to live better with your autoimmune disease. So hopefully this is helpful. and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for joining me.